Hey everybody, this is my channel is about the law, but it's also about alternative energy, alternative healing, preparedness, all sorts of stuff. And the YouTube has taken down a couple of my videos that they didn't like because I was talking about some alternative healing. So, but I have here a Dr. Diruzzo. Okay, he's a good friend of mine. And this is his website. And so we're going to talk here a little bit. We're going to try and keep it from, being scrutinized by YouTube's censors. And hopefully you find it interesting. And this is a friend of mine, and we're going to talk a little bit about it, about stuff that he does. And so, hello, Dr. Joe. How are you doing today?
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me to the program. This is a wonderful opportunity. I enjoy doing this.
Okay, well, this is Dr. Joe's website. He's really a brilliant guy. He's actually studied acupuncture. I think, didn't you go to China to study acupuncture?
You know, when Richard Nixon went to China, he came back with a bunch of Chinese doctors. This was in 1973. And I was amongst the very first trained in traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture, herbal medicine, tuina, shiatsu, and all of that good stuff. And it's been an intellectual ride of a lifetime. It is just such a wonderful thing to be able to study, such a privilege. But to answer your question, no, I never got over there. I had a number of Japanese and Chinese instructors, and they came here, and the pizza is better here than it is over there, so I decided to stay here and get the same training.
There you go. I know Dr. Joe also went to medical school in Dominican Republic. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, I did.
And so he has been around the block there a couple times. He has studied chiropractics. He studied a bunch of things. So we're not going to go into all of that stuff today, but we're going to go into a little bit and kind of get everybody warmed up to some of these ideas. So that's what Dr. Joe's website is about. And just to kind of scroll down here a little bit about some of the stuff he talks about, prenatal, pre-implanting, Wonder Baby program. He's talked to me about that. That's very interesting by itself. Anyways, this is just a quick cursory view of his website. So Dr. Joe, now, I don't know if we can talk about this. We got to try and stay away from topics that might draw scrutiny by YouTube, but now we were talking earlier about what was it? We were talking about there's a rumor. Okay, this is something I've heard about how when they homogenize milk, they break the fat cells down into tiny little shards, and they go right through the lining of your stomach, and they scar the inside of your arteries, which makes it so that cholesterol can stick. And you told me some things about that. Do you want to go over that again, about what you were talking about there that time?
You see, how many people do you see in America who have arterial sclerosis or atherosclerotic plaque or heart disease?
Heart disease, yeah, we were talking about heart disease.
Coronary artery disease, heart and coronary artery disease. And you've heard the term free radicals. And
right.
You've heard that there's all these free radicals. They're atomic level size little molecules, and they're extremely corrosive. They're highly reactive.
Well, a free radical is a free oxygen molecule, a free oxygen atom, actually. Oxygen comes as O2, it's a binary molecule, but when oxygen combines with things, sometimes there is left a free oxygen atom floating around. That's what a free radical is.
It's called a singlet oxygen.
That's right.
Right? There is singlet oxygen, there's hydroxyl radicals, all kinds of different radicals. And there are these little tiny things that I think of them as miniature buzzsaws. And once you get them into your system from eating food that's full of, free radicals, The next thing you know, you've got scarring of the arterioles and free radical damage, free radical pathology. You can read books on free radical pathology theory. And we have antioxidants, and those antioxidants quench free radicals, and that's their job inside of the body. How can you tell if somebody has sustained free radical damage to their cardiovascular system?
I don't know. Can you tell by looking at someone?
I certainly can.
Wow, is that part of the Chinese acupuncture and all of that, Chinese healing?
It is. The Japanese, they call it diagnosis by visual observation. They have Bunshin Jutsu, diagnosis by visual observation. They have Boshin Jutsu, Banshin Jutsu, Manshin Jutsu, and Setsu Shinjutsu. They can reach over and touch your arm, and if your arm is inflamed near your elbow, it means that your large intestine is inflamed.
Wow, isn't that interesting?
They can look in the center of the face is the nose, in the center of the body is the heart. And so if you look at the nose, what you're getting is a reflection of the little tiny capillaries that are actually throughout the entire body. So every once in a while I'll look at somebody whose nose is kind of gray and bluish gray. They've got too much venous blood in their system. Their blood isn't properly oxygenated. And it doesn't take long before people like that have a heart attack or a stroke or something associated with the cardiovascular system.
Isn't that interesting? I remember seeing people where their nose is like it's like the blood vessels are really close to the surface. It's really inflamed and red looking. You know what I mean?
It's inflamed and red. Well, what's one of the big things that came with the COVID was pericarditis, myocarditis,
right?
Inflammation of the heart muscle and the sac around the heart.
Right.
So you can tell, as who was it? Babe Ruth said you can tell an awful lot just by looking. Was it? Well, you remember when he said that?
I don't remember if Babe Ruth was the one that said that, but when we were talking about this heart disease and things like that, and my sister-in-law is an herbalist, and she has this story about the cardiac surgeons, and she told me this was one of her many stories. She's an amazing lady. She told me about how she had this. A snowbird, okay? You know what a snowbird is there, Dr. Joe. It's someone from Canada that goes to Phoenix for the winter, right?
Yeah,
or
right.
Someone from New York that goes to Florida for the winter.
Right.
And so there was a snowbird that was in Phoenix. He was from Canada, had chest pains, went to see a cardiac surgeon, and the cardiac surgeon said he needed a triple bypass. And so... and he said, well, that's okay. I'm from Canada. I'll go back to Canada and get it done for nothing. And so then the next year, the same cardiac surgeon was seeing the same snowbird, and he didn't. He said, well, last year you were here and you needed a triple bypass, and this year you're here and you don't need it anymore, and you didn't have the triple bypass because there's no scarring. When they do that thing, they open up your ribs, they break your ribs, all sorts of stuff, because they have to go and put new veins around your heart. They take some veins out of your legs and put them around your heart, bypass the blocked arteries. And so they say to him, so what did you do? And he says, I went to see this herbalist, my sister-in-law. And so then it turns out the cardiac surgeon needs a triple bypass. And so he goes to see her. She does this live blood analysis, and she says, you got some blockages. You need to take these herbs and come back and see me in 6 weeks. The herbs she gave her, she told me, was hawthorn. And hawthorn is just a tree that just grows all over the place. And she said any kind of hawthorn will work to do it. And it basically cleans out,
The hawthorn berry is very, very healing. But how long has Homo sapiens been using herbal remedies and natural remedies?
Thousands of years.
Literally thousands of years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what you'll find is if you look around, you will find an aid, if not a cure, definitely an aid for every infirmity you can imagine, anything you can name. If you look in nature's medicine cabinet, you'll find something there that'll help. May not cure it, but it'll always help.
Well, and a lot of our problems is because of our dietary habits. Something as simple as vitamin C. just taking huge doses of this. I was listening how in China, when they had that COVID, the doctors were treating the people with huge doses of vitamin C. They were treating them with like intravenous vitamin C, which it was like between 25,000 and 60,000 units of vitamin C.
Is vitamin C hard to get here in America?
No, it's not.
Well, why then would the doctors not do the same thing if they had clinical evidence in China? What's going on here?
It's there's no money to be made with vitamin C.
You know, it's a fascinating thing. 87% of cardiologists take vitamin E because they know it's what? Good for your heart. It's cardioprotective.
Right.
13% of cardiologists recommend that to their patients. Now, to me, that's a horrible, inadequate practice. That's just, that's despicable. They know what makes an improvement, and they deliberately refrain from telling most of their patients about it.
Well, I think, in all fairness to them, they have a lot of pressure from the medical boards and that kind of stuff. And so, in all fairness to them, but it's really a sad commentary on our society when they're more interested in making money than in causing some beneficial healing. So tell me about, the acupuncture and stuff like that you do, or the Chinese healing, or do you want to have anything in particular that you want to cover today of talking about?
It is such a rich field, and there's so much there that I'll just mention a few things. Oriental diagnosis by visual observation, Boshinjutsu. You look at people's nose and you'll see the condition of their heart. You look at their lower lip and you'll see the intestine of the lower intestine, the condition of the lower intestine. Years and years ago, I was studying this, and I got on the train and went to New York City and took the board exams to be a chiropractor. And I looked at everybody on the train, and they either had a big red swollen nose or a big lower lip or something that indicated that they were really, really, really ill. I was just in shock by it.
And you see people that have, it's basically a lower abdomen that's really distended and sticking out. Like to me, that's saying that there's something going on in the colon down there.
Well, you look at the lips. Upper lip reflects the upper digestive system. Lower lip reflects the lower digestive. I had a fellow come in one time, and I looked at his upper lip, and he didn't have an upper lip. I said, "You ever have any problems with your stomach?" He said, "No. Why?" I said, "You sure you never have stomach problems?" He said, "No. I used to, but I had my stomach removed, and since then I haven't had any problems."
Yeah, really?
So every time I would use this Oriental diagnosis, it was right on the money, spot on, over and over and over.
And his stomach removed, how did he digest his food?
Well, they just don't live as long, that's all.
Oh, man, that's terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't believe these doctors that do that kind of stuff. You hear other stuff, too. Like I heard about Dr. Schultz talked about a 16-year-old girl that he gave her a colostomy bag.
Oh, man.
Cut out her colon.
That's terrible.
And a 16-year-old girl, and she had this colostomy bag and was at her Sweet 16 party and had this colostomy bag, and the damn thing broke open and sprayed stuff all over the place. And she just was totally devastated by it, ran upstairs, and the next morning they found she'd hung herself.
Well, you've heard the term military-industrial complex.
Yes.
And we were cautioned against the military-industrial complex. There's the medical-industrial complex, the educational-industrial complex, the legal-industrial complex, the entertainment and television media-industrial complex. And anytime you interact with one of those, you're usually going to end up on the short end of the stick. That poor girl. That was horrible.
That was terrible.
Yeah, really.
I mean, and that's Dr. Schultz said that's why he developed his digestive formulas, which is basically it keeps your, it keeps you flowing. Let me put it that way.
And that's very important. The transit time from when you put something in your mouth and chew it and swallow it till the time when you go to the bathroom and get rid of that waste should be a lot less than 24 hours.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how many people like Dr. Schultz would say, he'd ask them when they come and see him, the first thing he'd ask them is when is the last time you had a bowel movement? And some of them would say like 3 months.
Yeah. How horrible is that?
Well,
that putrid waste sitting in the colon.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a free radical generator.
Oh,
The thing about free radicals is free radicals generate more free radicals, which do what? Generate more free radicals. Yeah, and it is a chain reaction. And the purpose of vitamins and minerals and vegetables and fruits are more vitamins. They're closer to the sun. Vegetables are more minerals. They're closer to the ground. And the purpose of all of these is to quench free radicals. If you're sitting there with an intestine full of toxic waste, it's only a matter of time until you come down with some kind of thing.
Right.
So you've got to keep things flowing. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's one of the things that, since I watched that Dr. Schultz video, I mean, I gotta make sure I go at least once a day, and if I go 2 or 3 times a day, I don't worry about it. I'm glad. It's a bit of a nuisance, but I'm glad that things are flowing normally, but I don't want diarrhea. I don't want it really runny, but it's not. It just goes nice and normally.
Normal. You should not be straining.
Right.
It should be this concept. Everything, nature. There's something in nature for just about everything. All of these things. I used to have a clinic, and I had a colonic machine where people would lay on their back and get a colonic irrigation, and you wouldn't believe the number of little old ladies who were kind of plugged up. And I had a nurse there, and they were so grateful when they finally got rid of some of that waste. It made a big difference for them.
There was times I remember, I would give myself an enema,
Yeah.
and there would be something that would go, and I'd look in the toilet and it'd be green, but when it went, it was like a weight was taken off of my shoulders.
Yeah.
And I'd look in the toilet and something that's green and hard would be in there. You know what I mean?
All of this thing with medicine, those who live by the pharmaceuticals will
Die by the pharmaceuticals.
And I would go to a dinner there'd be doctors there, and there'd be a doctor there with a great big red nose, and he was a what? A cardiologist.
There we go.
I mean, there's a poetic injustice of all this. And there'd be doctors there with great big circles under their eyes, which indicates improper function of the kidneys, and they would be kidney
doctors.
There'd be a doctor there, white as a ghost, and I'd say, well, what's your specialty today? So lungs.
Yeah.
Lungs. His lungs didn't work quite right.
Yeah.
And then all of this material is there for all eyes to see. But we haven't been trained, and all of this work with the Oriental diagnosis was just absolutely spectacularly effective. I mean, and it always surprised my patients. I had never had the slightest difficulty building big clinics and filling them full of patients, because what I did was A, unusual, B, made common sense, and C, was very effective.
Right.
So if you can do that, people come running.
Right. Well, and I know that you're into all sorts of other things besides just what we're talking about today. But so, is there anything else you want to talk about?
I have got a program that I'm trying to give away a sample, or let people take the whole program on as a approval kind of a basis. But I want this information to get out. Years and years ago, I was taking seminars in neurological functioning. I did a postdoctoral program in neurology. And one of the things that you see when people are being creative, what do they do with their eyes? They characteristically will kind of look up to the ceiling and kind of move their head back and forth and move their eyes. And what they're doing is they're electrochemically exciting the posterior part of the brain, the occipital lobe, the calcarine cortex, where visual images are stored and created. And so when you see somebody who is being creative, most of the time they'll be sitting there and their eyes will be moving left and right, and then they'll come up with an answer, or they'll come up with a breakthrough, or they'll come up with something. So I decided to model that behavior back. I decided to see if I could make myself more creative. And I sat in a darkened room for 3 days and I moved my eyes left and right, left and right, left and right, left and right. And there were little places in my visual field that was uncomfortable. It felt stuck. And I call those scotomas. It's a blind spot. It's indicative of an area where your brain is not freely functioning. And if you sit and move your eyes left and right, left and right, one of the things I did with people is I'd say, tell me about a problem you have. Usually they'd look down and their voice would go down. They'd say, oh, I got a problem, Doc. It's terrible. I'd say, put your eyes up and turn your eyes left and right and try and visualize a solution. Try and visualize a solution. 9 times out of 10, after about 2 minutes, they'd say, well, I guess I could do that, or I could do this, or I could do something else. And the whole point of it is we now have a control over our degree of creativity. If you want to be creative, electrochemically excite more of your brain by using your eyes to look left and right, left and right, left and right, left and right. That's what you do naturally anyways. And I find that with a minimum of training, just a little coaching, most people can become far more creative and they can solve their problems and enjoy life to a greater degree. And this is a big part of what I call the optimal human experience.
Oh, isn't that interesting?
This is the optimal human, being healthy,
right,
and being very creative,
right,
is very, very, that's part of the optimal human experience. And I want everybody to be able to be free to experience that.
Right. Interesting. I want to just talk real briefly about my exclusive videos. This is my HowTube channel, and I have over 50 exclusive videos here available for people that want to subscribe. You can it's go to howtube.com, Sovereignty International, and you can subscribe, and for $10 a month you'll have access to my exclusive videos, to things that I'm uploading to HowTube that is not suitable for YouTube. And so that's one, I wanted to bring that to everybody's attention. So anyways, so I see you've got some podcasts on here, and you also have some videos and about prenatal experience, and oh, you're on TikTok too, I guess. Oh, you sure are.
I want everybody to have the opportunity to enjoy the optimal human experience. I want people to be creative and dynamic and powerful and have great rapport with other people and have wonderful relationships and be prosperous and enjoy life for the first 100 years.
The first 100 years,
The first 100 years, yeah.
So how long do you think people should live? I think that people should live a lot more than the 80 years now that we live.
Well, it depends on whether or not they're my in-laws or not. But the Chinese said basically you have a lifespan of about 100 years, and if you take care of yourself. There was a study called the China study, and people wanted to know what should we eat. And in China, they kept records of people's health, what diseases they got, and what they ate. And you can get on Amazon used books or look around for it. The China study, basically whole food, mostly plant-based, full of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants. And if you take good care of yourself, there's 5 things that you need to enjoy good health. You have to have, number 1, proper diet. Number 2, proper rest. Number 3, proper exercise. Number 4, proper mental attitude. Mental attitude.
Your attitude really means a lot to everything, I'll tell you.
It does. The Chinese have an old saying that whether you're happy or sad, it's still the same world. You know?
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Really.
Your happy or sadness isn't going to change the world.
No, it's still the same world.
Yeah, that's right.
And the 5th thing they say, you need some kind of natural health massage or shiatsu or acupuncture or qigong or tai chi, some kind of something to stir up. They say there's blood, there's lymphatic fluid, and there's chi or energy, and you want to stir these up. You want to keep them moving. You want to, in a healthy way.
Well, I've heard about these people that have these, that like you hear about them or you see videos about them in Russia that go and jump in a frozen lake in the wintertime.
Really?
and that's got to be a shock to the system. And I'll bet you that's supposed to be pretty good for you.
Well,
You know, it exposes your body to things that you're just not used to. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I would kind of be cautious with that one. But you know what I've heard? These people go to these cryogenic clinics and they sit in the cold. One of my friends did. And he said you wouldn't believe the degree to which it takes inflammation out of your system.
Yeah, that's interesting.
ASAP. You know, well, it's like 100 degrees below zero. You sit there for a minute or two. Next thing you know, the inflammation's gone.
Right. So you know, I've heard about that. There was also a guy that I heard recently. Oh, it was Dr. David Martin. He talks about in one of his videos where he went to China, and he grew up on a farm. So they used to milk cows in the wintertime and all that stuff. And he says that they invited him to go out and stand in the snow in his bare feet.
Really?
And he said that after a while he noticed that his feet, that the snow changed its what do they call that? That changed its turned into water. It melted around his feet, and you know, it was kind of interesting. They did that in China. So there's something to that. You know, I think that you know, again, Dr. Schultz, when he his last treatment, if all else fails, if he can't figure out what's wrong with someone, he'll tell them to go and take a cold shower. You know,
go jump in the lake
or something like that. Jump in a lake, a frozen lake, a cold lake, or just a cold shower where you shock the system. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, there is, you know, every internal state has got an external phenomenon, and if you change the external significantly, and you got to be careful, you got to know what you're doing, but it's going to cause a corresponding change in your insides. And if you've got blood stagnation, lymph stagnation, or chi stagnation, jumping in a lake is probably under supervision by somebody who knows how to do it. I'll bet you it's probably pretty good for you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, of course. You don't want to do it by yourself. That's for sure.
No.
These people do it as a group. There's a bunch of them, and you know, and so they have it all ready. You know what I mean? They've broken the ice,
right?
And they go and jump in there, and then the water's probably not very deep where they do it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And
it's a health practice.
So it's a health practice for sure.
Practice. Yeah, they do it in Scandinavia.
Now you told me earlier we were talking about the arteries getting clogged and stuff like that.
Right.
You were talking about rabbits. You said something about rabbits.
Well, what's interesting is the scientific community funds research, and a lot of time, you know, they're kind of blind about what they're doing. They found that giving rabbits milk sugars, casein, milk, and sugar gives them arteriosclerosis. And then they feed these rabbits a specific diet, and they all get arteriosclerosis, and then they do things to them, and then they cut them open, their experiments.
Right.
But, you know, the funny thing is that while the rabbits are in the laboratory eating milk sugar condensates, what are the experimenters doing? They're in the cafeteria having
milk sugar condensates.
Yeah, right. But ice cream and and all that stuff with sugar and milk.
Right. I know. I don't drink. You know, I don't drink milk, but I do like ice cream, and that's why I take the Hawthorne because it keeps things cleared out. And I love cheeses. Okay, and cheeses are obviously probably made with homogenized milk, so I'm getting it one way or another, anyways.
Yeah.
And so I love cheeses. And so I take this Hawthorne and just to keep things cleared out, and I've never had any trouble at all. I'll tell you, I'll go out and walk. You know, Joe is you've been with me when I'm walking, and I leave you in the dust.
I was with you part of the way.
Yeah.
Right. You're very energetic.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, and so I get going, and. So I'll go out and walk a couple miles. You know, that's no problem.
Right.
And and I like to do that just to get a good exercise. I mean, sitting in front of my computer all day is really not very good exercise. And most of my stuff I do is with the law or something. And so I'm always let's see, is this the front page? Anyways, I'm always doing something, with my computer. And so yeah, there we're back at the front page. Anyways,
I want to see people being more creative at having fun. I want to see them more creative of doing anything that's worthwhile. But I want to see them be creative in their relationships, in their business, in their prosperity, and I want to see them be creative having fun.
Well, they say laughter is good for the soul, right?
Oh, absolutely.
There's nothing better than a good belly laugh.
Absolutely.
You laugh, your guts out, and your whole body is just way better.
Yeah.
And
it's part of the optimal human experience.
Absolutely.
Your life is not complete without proper mental attitude and laughter and joy and fun and good friends and feeling
absolutely.
productive, feeling like you're making a contribution.
Absolutely. So anyways, everybody, this is Dr. Joe's website. He's got a lot of interesting stuff. He's talked about his Wonder Baby program. The Gift of the White Tigers is a book that he wrote. And he's talked about some of the stuff he's talked with me about. Some of it he hasn't, or maybe he has, and I just didn't realize it. So this is his website. If there's anybody if you're interested, I'd highly recommend you go over there. And he's got some stuff that he does that he doesn't talk about on that website too. So he's he's definitely into alternative healing. He's interested in healing people. He's not particularly interested in peddling any pharmaceuticals. The
interesting thing is when you see a patient or you see anybody, you can usually make a little improvement in their health. Maybe some vitamin C, maybe some sprouts, maybe a green drink, a green smoothie, maybe pantothenic acid. Somebody, if you can make a little improvement, characteristically you can make another little improvement, and then another little improvement, and then another little improvement, and by and large, I've often said this concept of disease is simply an illusion. Most of it is living out of harmony with nature, and once you start becoming more harmony with nature, your health will improve by leaps and bounds, right?
Yeah, I have to say, well, I'm actually pretty healthy. I'm in my 60s now. I hate to say it, but I never thought I'd get here, but I'm here. And I'm actually pretty healthy. I still go out and walk a couple miles. I wouldn't mind doing some skiing actually, but that's expensive. It's expensive to go snow skiing. And I just don't have the money right now, but I got some cryptocurrency investments, and I'm hoping that stuff's going to pay off here pretty soon. We can get them to quit rigging the markets. So that's still a possibility. I'll tell you, I'd like to go and do some skiing, and I don't think I'd want to take the tough hills. I'd take the bunny hills first, and maybe then some medium hills, because I don't. But I'll tell you, there's nothing better than skiing to give you some good exercise. Let me tell you,
it's wonderful exercise. All that fresh air.
Oh yeah,
it's wonderful. It's absolutely.
I remember when I was in my 20s. I went up to the top of this mountain. I figured I'm Joe Cool, and I can handle it, no problem. And I went up to the top of this mountain. I went up to the very top, and I could see the bottom between the tips of my skis. And by the time I got down, I had to go. I went to the car, and I went to sleep. I was just totally exhausted. I ran into a tree on the way down, and the choice was take the tree or speed up, and I was just so exhausted, and it was like just a cliff basically, and
right. What are the 5 diamonds? They have diamonds.
It depends on the ski hill about how they grade their hills and stuff like that. But this was like up to the top of this mountain. This was in Canada. It's called Fernie Snow Valley, and it's a big bowl, and up at the top, the snow is like you see the pine trees, some of the pine trees are poking up out of the snow. And so, it's like just the tip of the tree. and that tree's probably 50 feet tall, and all you're seeing, because there's been other places that I would go in the mountains, and you see chimneys poking up out of the snow, so the house is buried, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And you'd be walking on the snow, and that's good exercise. There's no doubt about that. But I'm not into killing myself. I just want to go out and get some exercise and spend some time outside, and that's why I like, actually, Arizona is really nice, because you can see the mountains, you can see the snow up there in the mountains, and you can go up there and play in the snow when you want. And when you get tired of it, then you can go back down the desert where it's nice and hot and there's no snow.
That sounds the best of both worlds.
I'll tell you, you go hiking, there's all sorts of stuff. So I like Arizona too. But so anyways, is there anything else you want to cover while we're here talking about this?
I think we've covered a lot of ground. I invite everybody to check out my website and see the comments we have, and I hope you're interested in some of them. I've tried to make it what makes living fun and enjoyable and productive and just all good things to everybody.
Yep, and I can say that Dr. Joe is definitely he's a good friend, and we see a like-minded in a lot of ways. And so, if anybody watches any of my videos, he likes my videos about the other stuff too. And so you'll be helping out. If you're talking to him, it's someone that's of a like mind. I can say that for sure. And so I guess if that's about it, I guess we might as well wrap it up. Do you have any final words you'd like to say?
Live long and prosper, right?
Yeah, there you go.
That was what Spock used to say.
There you go. Live long and prosper. There you go.